We've been listening wrong. Not casually wrong, fundamentally wrong, for generations. When we hear Moonlight Sonata, Für Elise, Swan Lake, or Clair de Lune, we don't just hear sound, we hear conclusions. We already know what they mean. Moonlight is tragic, Für Elise is romantic, Swan Lake is doomed while Clair de Lune is gentle and nostalgic. The emotion arrives before the harmony does. But here's the problem. Most of those meanings weren't written by the composers, they were written by us. Take Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. He never called it that. A critic described it as moonlight on water, and the image stuck. But once that metaphor attached itself to the sonata, perception shifted permanently. The unstable harmony became reflection. The restless pulse became melancholy. The architecture disappeared behind the image. From that moment on, listeners weren't hearing tension suspended over harmonic instability. They were hearing moonlight, a poetic nickname rewired 2 centuries of listening. Für Elise is even more fragile. We don't even have the original manuscript. The name may have been misread. There's no proof of a secret romantic confession, and yet we built one anyway. We invented a woman around a melody because ambiguity makes us uncomfortable. A simple motif felt intimate, so we attached a love story to it. Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake gets treated like emotional autobiography. We point to his struggles and hear them echoing in the score. But Swan Lake was a commission, structured for choreography, revised after failure. The yearning theme isn't evidence of confession, it's evidence of control. But biography is easier to tell than structure is to understand. Debussy's Clair de Lune gets flattened into softness. Moonlight, calm, nostalgia. But Debussy destabilizes tonality. He lets phrases hover instead of landing cleanly. He shifts harmonic colors in ways that resist emotional certainty. The ground never feels entirely solid, and the piece isn't simple. It refuses to settle. And when something refuses to settle, we tame it with a story. Then there's Bach. What most people call air on the G string isn't even presented in its original form. The famous version came from a later arrangement by August Wilhelm, who reshaped it so the violin could sing entirely on one string. What audiences believe is untouched, spiritual purity is already reinterpretation. Bach wasn't writing transcendence. He was building interlocking lines with mathematical precision. We hear holiness, he built structure. And Pachelbel's Canon in D didn't begin as a wedding prophecy. It became one. It rests on a repeating bass line that never changes, while everything above it evolves. Pattern over constancy, variation over foundation. But because we've paired it with vows again and again, it now feels like destiny. Romance wasn't written into the progression. Repetition made it feel inevitable. And sometimes the transformation goes even further. Schubert's Ave Maria may be the clearest example of all. Today it feels sacred, untouchable, almost suspended outside ordinary life. But it wasn't written as liturgical music. It was part of a larger dramatic setting, adapted from a poem. The melody didn't begin in a cathedral, it began in theater. Over time, context shifted. The music detached from its origin and absorbed the weight of ritual. The harmony stayed the same. Look at what keeps happening. A nickname, a misreading, a biography, a ceremony, an arrangement. Layer after layer, narrative attaches itself to structure. And here's the turning point. The more beautiful the story is, the less we question it. So let me ask something uncomfortable. If we need the composer to suffer before we allow their music to matter, what does that say about us? Harmony doesn't confess, it delays, it resolves, it destabilizes expectation. Your brain predicts what comes next. When resolution's delayed, you feel tension. When it finally arrives, you feel release. That sensation isn't automatically heartbreak. Over time, masterpieces become mirrors. We pour into them longing, grief, faith, identity. They reflect it back so convincingly that we assume it was encoded from the beginning. When Moonlight Sonata moves you, that feeling's real. But it may come from suspended harmony, not moonlight. When Für Elise feels intimate, that intimacy's real. But it may rise from melodic simplicity and dynamic restraint. When Swan Lake feels tragic, that response is authentic. But it may be orchestral tension, not autobiography. The music survived because it's structurally resilient. It can hold projection without collapsing. What if this music never needed tragedy to justify its intensity? What if we kept adding suffering because it made the power easier to explain? What if the meaning we defend so fiercely isn't written in the score, but written in us? The next time those opening notes begin, pause before the inherited emotion takes over. Listen for the harmony, and ask yourself, are you hearing the composer? Or are you hearing the story you need to hear? If the meaning lives partly in you, then maybe the music was never broken. Maybe we just needed it to be.